Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. And we are here live on the Classified Caribbean News Channel. Thank you so much for joining, and I hope that you'll be joining me soon, many of you, so that we can have a rather stimulating and important discussion. Now, the title this afternoon is Jamaica's Deportee Deal, part of a much bigger agenda. And that's the question that we're looking at. And I think that it is part of a much bigger agenda because we're living in now some very strange times. We're not living in normal times. And some of you are still talking about Michael Manley, you talk about Edward Seaga, but we must understand that the times in which they live were different, starkly different than the times in which we live. So we've got to adapt ourselves now to a system that is controlled by the United States, as it were, and some other global powers. So we're going to delve into these agendas and see what sense we can make out of nonsense, because certainly that is what critical thinking entails, to make sense out of nonsense. Many of us don't want to think, I understand, but if you don't want to think, then we will have to pay the consequences for such. So good afternoon. The Jamaica Gleaners headline today, we're going to be looking at that and to see what they're saying, the facts that they are giving, or the narratives, because we know that facts are today narratives that are not necessarily what is the truth, but we have to cling to what they're telling. Well, we have to try to unpack what they're saying again to make sense out of nonsense. So we have that Deportee deal draws fire. That is what the Gleaner is reporting this morning. The Dr. Andrew Holness administration is facing pressure to justify the Jamaica's involvement in a controversial United States deportee arrangement as political analysts raise questions about the country's role as a transit point for a third country nationals. Something very interesting, right? But we've been hearing this for a long time now, okay? But we know that sometimes when things are in anticipation, we do not necessarily think about them until they happen, right? When a storm is approaching, as I said last night, we tend to be cognizant of it and we'll watch it. But when it's really at our doors, then is when people begin to shake. Even though this was already said, it was already announced, and Trump and other countries were in negotiations, it's right now at our doorsteps. So Minister of National Security and Peace, Dr. Horace Chang, on Tuesday confirmed that the government is negotiating the US-backed arrangement, but said it is not opening the country's borders for an uncontrolled migration program. This is what Dr. Chang is saying. Now, Dr. Chang said the safety and security of Jamaicans and visitors to the island, as well as its obligations under international law, have guided every step of the discussions on this Memorandum of Understanding, the MOU, between Jamaica and the United States of America concerning third country nationals. So this is what is going to become a part of our vocabulary now, third country nationals, that people can receive nationals from anywhere in the world, even if they are not citizens of that particular country. This is a new normal, a new reality to which we have to adapt. Now, and we're going to adapt to it, because we're going to be screaming for 9 days. And then when it becomes now the norm, we move with it, right? That is what citizens do all the time. It followed an article published in the Gleaner yesterday that disclosed that the US had sent a proposal to the government surrounding Jamaica's acceptance of third country nationals. Now, this is what Dr. Chang is saying. I want to first clarify that the individuals who may be transferred under this framework are not being brought to Jamaica as permanent migrants. These are nationals of other countries other than Jamaica who are being facilitated through a structured process to transit through Jamaica to a third territory, including return to their home countries. Jamaica is not opening its borders for the uncontrolled migration program, Chang said, confirming that at the time, or at the same time, that up to 25 deportees would be sent to the island every 2 weeks. Some people are saying every week. It is not every week that 25 people will be sent, every 2 weeks, bi-weekly. However, University of the West Indies, that's a UWI lecturer in the Department of Government, Damien Gordon, said while he appreciated Chang's attempt to provide clarity, the proposed deal did not stand on any solid or justifiable ground or foundation. And he's right, right? We can't understand why they're sending third, you know, people who are non-Jamaicans to Jamaica. I mean, it doesn't make any sense, right? And why are they being sent en route to their country of origin? It doesn't make any sense. And isn't it going to cost more money for U.S. citizens eventually, or will it cost Jamaica? We don't know how much it will cost Jamaica to house them there. Chang is suggesting that they are not going to be detained, that they will be free to roam the country. So, we don't know what the agreement is. How are they going to get jobs, right? Housing, healthcare, education, if they need education, all of that. These are things that have not yet been disclosed. Gordon argued that the arrangement could not be a joint security corporation since there are no perceptible security benefits for Jamaica. He called the proposed deal a furtherance of the Donald Trump administration's radical anti-immigration policy that disproportionately targets immigrants of color from Africa and Central America. We have to place this proposed deal with the broader context of discriminatory policies towards certain groups, predominantly from third world African and Central American nations, and the extent to which Jamaica's involvement as a transshipment point could be seen as a complicit in discrimination or unfair and unequal treatment of certain groups. Gordon asserted that this is because there have been concerns that many of the people being deported have been denied due process in the United States. He said some were rounded up by ICE agents, separated from their families, detained, and are being sent to countries with which they have no ties against their wishes. Gordon argued that this raises rather ethical concerns about the fair and humane treatment of the third country nationals. Now, we're hearing lots of talk, right? And that is what Jamaicans and Caribbean people like to do, right? We talk a lot, but at the end of the day, things are going to progress as the United States deems it appropriate, and nothing we can do. Because we want their loans, right? We want their IMF loans. We want to go to the country, so people want their visas, right? There's so many things that we rely on the United States to do, and therefore we are not going to, at this point in time, give up those privileges, right, that we consider to be important in our lives. So the Jamaica Gleaner's headline today reads, Deportee deal draws fire. But what if the real story is bigger than the deal itself? And that's what we're questioning. Across the Caribbean, governments are discussing digital identities, smart city projects, AI-driven governance, expanded surveillance systems, and new migration arrangements. At the same time, Jamaica is facing growing questions about its role in accepting deportees who are not Jamaican nationals. Now, we're seeing a lot of trends happening in Jamaica, particularly after Hurricane Melissa, right? And we have seen many people going down there, including the American media houses, and they have pledged support and given billions of dollars in aid. I mean, we've heard that those billions of dollars in aid were not given to the people, right? And that we hear that recently. Now we're hearing after the hurricane, we heard about smart cities, right? Andrew Holness is on record of suggesting that smart cities are part of his agenda, that Jamaica has not built any purposeful cities for a long, long time. So when he's talking about cities, he's referring to smart cities. Recently also, we've learned in Montego Bay that there is in preparation for smart cities, we have smart parking lots, right? So if you want to park your car, you have that, you can access that smart parking lot. There are lots of things happening that we want to unpack in this afternoon's program. Now, let's look at a very interesting article that was written in the Council on Foreign Relations. And if you want to get a glimpse into what these people are doing, the elites of the world are doing, you've got to subscribe and you've got to read sometimes the Council on Foreign Relations, because it's almost like the Illuminati of the United States. Now, the article here was written 2025, And the question is being asked here in the title: what are third country deportations and why is Trump using them? And this was written on September 3rd, 2025, the day when Prime Minister Andrew Holness was actually invested. Well, not invested, they had the election and he won. Since taking office, President Donald Trump has significantly escalated the use of third country deportations in an unprecedented expansion of a rarely used provision in United States immigration law. So far, nearly a dozen countries have agreed to accept U.S. deportees. And this was written on September what? 3rd, 2025. And a dozen countries then had already agreed. So we know that this was going to happen, often in exchange for financial compensation or under diplomatic pressure. However, critics warn that such deportations violate international human rights standards and place vulnerable migrants at risk. Third country deportation refers to a section of Immigration Nationality Act, that's the INA, that allows the Department of Homeland Security to deport migrants to countries other than their countries of origin. During immigration proceedings, judges will designate a country where the migrant is supposed to be deported, usually their country of origin. If removal to the designated country is impracticable, inadvisable, or impossible, the INA authorizes DHS to remove a non-citizen to a third country. So this is something that has been approved, not by just Trump, but the entire system in the United States, right? The Department of Homeland Security. I want you to understand that. So when we're always calling Trump, we must understand that this is a system that is in operation, and you are not going to fight Trump. You and I would have to fight a system that is deeply entrenched in the military-industrial complex of the United States. That is what we have to understand, which may or may not be one where they hold citizenship or nationality. Under the Trump administration, I want to listen carefully and listen keenly. Under the Trump administration, nearly a dozen countries, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Eswatini, Mexico, which is Mexico, Panama, Rwanda, South Sudan, and Uganda, have reportedly agreed to receive deportees with no existing ties to their nations. While some deportees have been confirmed to be detained in foreign prison facilities, the United States government lacks information on the location and condition of many others. And then they tell us all of these countries that are there. Now, are third countries' deportations legal? That's what the Foreign Affairs paper is asking here. While U.S. law allows third country deportations, the specific legality of doing so without adequate safeguards or asylum protections in place is currently being challenged in U.S. courts. In April, U.S. District Court Judge Brian E. Murphy barred the federal government from sending migrants to third countries without first assessing potential claims under the United Nations Convention Against Torture. He ruled that failing to give migrants a meaningful opportunity to raise fears of deportation violated their constitutional due process rights. Despite the ruling, Trump administration attempted in May to deport 8 migrants of various nationalities to South Sudan, a country with which they had no connection. No connection. Plaintiffs argued that the deportations exposed them to the risk of torture or serious harm in violation of both U.S. and international law. So even though they tell us that these people will be protected, we do not know. We do not know. And I'm understanding that the agreements are secretive. We are not going to see the entire MOU, all right? So we must understand that. They will tell us all they want to tell us, but we must understand that these people are not trustworthy. Now, why is the Trump administration using third country deportations? The question is being asked. The deportations are part of the Trump administration's mass deportation campaign. Officials believe the approach will discourage migration to the United States and encourage voluntary self-deportation. That's what they're suggesting here. Where? Now, okay, so you're talking about going back to their country, right? At the same time, Trump is suggesting that many of them don't want to go back or will not be accepted, and that's why he's sending them to these third countries. It does not make any sense at all. The administration has also argued that third country deportations are necessary because some countries refuse to accept their citizens back after they've been given to an official deportation under by the United States of America. And Cambodia, Eritrea, Guinea, and we have Sierra Leone did this during Trump's first term. Now, I think these countries perhaps would not have accepted them because maybe they were not citizens from that country. That's number one. Maybe the process was illegal, right? But generally speaking, countries normally accept, if it's their citizens, that these nationals should be sent back there. But sometimes you might find another person from another Caribbean island going to Jamaica that was not Jamaican, right? But the process, they might have said they're Jamaican, and when they get there, people say, okay, they find out that they're not. So these things happen, and we can't just say that they're speaking the truth because U.S. citizens, the U.S. authorities rather, do not often speak the truth. Yet in some cases, third countries can repatriate migrants to their home countries despite U.S. claims that origin countries refuse to accept their citizens back. Now, that to me is nonsense. So far, the Trump administration has reportedly approached at least 58 governments. How many? 58 governments about accepting deportees. Whether it is tariff concessions, or in the case of African countries, many of them are under the threat of being placed under travel ban, or their diplomats will be prevented from coming from the United States. These are the stakes that are all being used to get these agreements. So if you don't want to have tariffs, right? If you want your visas to travel to the United States and to study there and to work there and to live there, if you don't want your green cards to be revoked and perhaps citizenship, you might have to suffer the consequences of this. And many of you don't want to have that happen. Sometimes you're blaming the government, and the government, yes, you should blame the government for not telling you upfront what is happening, because it's better for me to know and let me decide if I want to engage in that sort of agreement. But our governments tend not to be truthful and 100% transparent. And so, yes, I agree with you, but many of you are also to be blamed because you're licky, and you're so foreign-minded that you want these things. And if the government should say no, and then the tariffs are increased and the cost of living gets higher, then you begin to burn down the entire place. So you can have your cake and eat at the same time. We have to also understand that we've got to look at the world in which we live, the global geopolitics, and stop paying attention just to what is happening domestically. Because what is happening in the geopolitical realm is having serious impacts on our domestic situation in our respective Caribbean territories. Okay? Very important that you understand that. And too many of us are too consumed by the gossips, as I'm suggesting, and the acting and the stage, whatever, of what is happening in our respective Caribbean countries. And I'm telling you that the prime ministers there are just shaking within their boots because they don't know what to do themselves. All right? Now, is the U.S. the only democracy that uses third country deportations? That's the question being asked. Other democracies, particularly in Europe and Oceania, have pursued similar arrangements, largely as a deterrent to unauthorized migration. The United Kingdom, UK, for example, sought such an agreement with Rwanda in 2022, though it never went into effect due to legal challenges and public opposition. The UK is reportedly still engaged in ongoing discussions with other countries about establishing so-called return hubs for unauthorized migrants. Australia has used offshore processing and transfers more extensively as part of its deterrent policy. However, some experts say the United States stand out as one of the first democracies to operationalize third country removals at scale as part of a broader mass deportation strategy. So I can tell you that normally the United States set the trend. the United States normally set the trend, and this is going to become the new normal, right? So whether or not we're saying that UK didn't accept it, we know that if the United States normalizes the process, that this is going to become what? The new normal, and it's not going to change. The United States set the trend for everything that is happening in the world here, whether we like it or not. Now, there is also some important issues I want to highlight here. We're going to come back now to the surveillance and all of that, because that is part of the whole agenda, okay, of surveillance. But let us look at what the Minister of National Security, Dr. Horace Chang, is saying, and let us look at his pronouncements. I'm going to try if I can share this video with you as much as I can. Hopefully it will come up very soon. But whilst it's coming up, we want you to understand that this world that we live in now is going through a system in which they're connecting the entire world. They're trying now, and we're just one stroke. We're just one stroke away from the New World Order, and the only thing preventing it is the global IDs that they're trying to make. So these small cities are going to give them that sort of autonomy to now get control. Let me see if I can get this together for you so let me share the screen with you. Hopefully you'll be able to see this and see what he's saying. All right, so let me get there. Let me share my screen. This is a challenge with this computer, but I'm trying my best to see what I can do to share the screen with you so you can hear what he's saying. Is it that? No, that's not what I'm. All right. Let me see. Okay, I'm trying to get to back to the video that he was here. Give me a second, people, ladies and gentlemen. Let me get here. All right. Okay. Let me stop here and then come back. I might have to forego that one. But the Minister of Foreign, the Minister of Dr. Chang, the Minister of National Security, Dr. Chang, was saying that this is an agreement and it's legally binding. Right? But where is the memorandum of understanding? And how do we know that it's legally binding? He's also suggesting that they are not going to be detained. So why are you sending them to Jamaica then? Right? What is the problem then if they're not going to be detained? What is the wrangling? Why their country of origin, refuses to accept them? Or is that Trump is willing to send them because that is an agenda that they have in mind? These are some of the questions that we have to ask ourselves. Now, are these isolated developments, or are they pieces of a larger transformation taking place throughout the region? We have to ask ourselves. Now, Jamaica is not the only country that is a part of this agreement. That's what we need to understand, right? We have Guyana, okay, is also organizing that sort of agreement. We have Dominican Republic is also on the list. Antigua and Barbuda is also on the list, and a number of other Caribbean territories. Now, what they normally do, they always have these as test cases, right? Test countries, if you will. So, and afterwards, they will adapt or will now make it the new law for all Caribbean territories and also Latin American territories, right? So this is not just going to be only for Jamaica, it's going to be for Latin America and the Caribbean, but they are testing and to see how well the system works and what are the glitches, if any. Now, we are going to look at some of the things that I'm going to say. What is the deportation deal? What has been reported? Why is it so controversial? That's what we're trying to look at. And who is criticizing it? What is the government's position? But the government has told us that, it's nothing is wrong with it. It's a bilateral agreement. It said it does not defy international law nor human rights. But there are people who are human rights organizations saying that, yes, it is violating human rights. Because why would you want to send somebody to a country that they know nothing of? That's another thing. Would you send somebody to a country that they know absolutely nothing? Why is the Caribbean becoming more important? We have to look at these very important issues, right? These very important matters. Now, let us look at the whole system of the, what you call it now, the AI and the smart cities. Now, what are smart cities? Now, they're trying as much as they can to get us into cities that we don't have to really move to go to another location in whatever countries we live in. So everything will be done, right? Everything will be done right where you live. So you go to school in a very short range, you have the banks, you have your churches, you have just everything right there at your convenience. And, you know, when we look at what is happening to Jamaica, for example, we look at the what we call that country, that place in Portmore. The government, you know, recently was saying that Portmore should become a city, right? And all of these things are now, you know, we can see that they're shaping up to be. They're shaping up to be where they're trying to create these smart cities, and Portmore could just become one, right? Because remember, the government was trying and was, you know, sort of putting pressure on the people of Parliament so that they could have these sort of smart cities. Let's listen to what you're saying, and then we can go into other discussions. How are small Caribbean countries supposed to deal with criminal deportees? Well, they're saying that they're not criminals. That is what they're alleging. The ones who are being sent to the Caribbean, they're telling us. Now, it's not what I am saying, it's what they're saying. They're saying that they are not criminals. So you have nothing to be worried about. In fact, they will not be detained. So the fact that they won't be detained, the problem is that I'm asking, where are they going to be housed? And how will they work? What are their ages? Are they sick? Right? Are they the elderly? Right? And the country will be loaded and be burdened with the taking care of these people. These are some of the questions that we have to ask ourselves. Now, especially those who are not from the Caribbean. Well, the thing about it is that they're not criminals, as we're suggesting here. So that is what we have to, the first fact that we have to debunk. Caribbean is supposed to take back their own citizens, right? But what is happening now is that we're moving into a new age, into a new normal. Many of us think that after the pandemic and I don't think we say after the pandemic, but you know what I mean. The pandemic really hasn't ended. At least the laws of the pandemic are still on the book. The laws of the pandemic are still on the book. And since 2020, the COVID-19, we have been experiencing a new world. And many of us are not coming to grips. We have not yet come to grips. Neither do we want to come to grips with the fact that we're not living in 2019 and before. We're living in like a brave new world, as it were. Right? We're living now in a brave new world, and we have to read every day, and we have to find ourselves to become adjusted. Now, if we don't want to become adjusted, we've got to fight back. But how are we going to fight back? How are we going to fight back a system? Because this is bigger than Trump, you know. And I want you to understand that I think that the media, including many of our leaders, particularly the opposition leaders, tend to focus on Trump and not on a system that is designed to exploit us as people and to violate and to take away our rights. And these are things that we have to really discuss. But the thing about it is that many of us just react. We're just reacting, we react to the news, and then another one comes, and we get distracted, and then they add, and then we find ourselves eventually losing all our rights. But this obviously does not have to do only with deportees. I think that they are planning something sinister to have smart cities, AI controlled, biometric IDs, and I think they understand that the Caribbean people would not have accepted that agenda. So the best way to do it is to coerce our government that if you don't accept these deportees, we're going to take away your visas. We're going to take away your aid. We're going to take away just everything that Caribbean citizens have that make their lives a little comfortable, right? So that's what they're trying to do. So they're putting pressure on the government so the government can do and implement these IDs and these biometric system. And that's what we have to understand when we say we are not going to stand up to a system. Many people will say, oh, I'm not going to accept the biometric ID and stuff like that. They do these things subtly, right? Even when you least are aware of what they're doing, and that is how they get us. Right? And that, I think, that is how they're doing it right now. And I don't see any way how the governments of the Caribbean are going to be able to reject it, because, damn if you will and damn if you don't, because then they talk about the tariffs. Okay? That's what the Council on Foreign Relations was suggesting, that if they do not actually accede, then they're going to be slapped with tariffs. All right. So would we want to be slapped with tariffs? Or, and it depends on how much tariffs we also will be slapped on us. Let me WHZ saying they are moving around people into various regions strategically, right? People who should not be there, they are being placed, right? Let me just introduce you also to good afternoon, and we have Paul Bunyan is saying, let them take it away soon, a new president will reign in USA. Yeah, but what we're saying here, Paul Bunyan, is that this is a system, so that the next president is going to continue. Whichever president comes after Trump is going to continue with that system, because this is a worldwide system. As they're suggesting here, the UK is thinking about that. And in some parts of the European Union, they practice that. The third country sort of deportations. So this is not something that is new, right? This is something that they're gradually imposing upon us so that we can eventually become adapted to it. Let me just introduce you to some ideologies here, because these people are following the ideologies that they are, the policies are surrounding ideologies. When the UN, right, or the UN Habitat or Sustainable Development Goal documents, discuss the right to the city, there is a document in terms of the UN Sustainable Development Goal. It says that all of us have a right to the city. They are usually referring to ideas such as access to housing, access to public transportation, access to healthcare and education, inclusion in urban life, protection from discrimination, participation in urban government, and we have sustainable and equitable development. But their understanding of sustainability, they want us to make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. But their understanding of sustainable is that our rights are going to be violated. Anytime I hear the word sustainable, don't take it sustainable to be a nice word, as when the United Nations use it. It means, therefore, the violation of our rights. Now, critics, however, sometimes argue that the language of inclusion and the right to the city can be interpreted in ways that weaken traditional notions of citizenship, national sovereignty, or local community control. So I think, opposite to what we are thinking, very soon we are going to be able to travel wherever we want once we have the biometric IDs, right? Because we're also hearing that in Guyana, and the agreement between Guyana and Barbados, that now they can travel to and forth if they have this biometric card. All of these things are connected, ladies and gentlemen, right? So if Guyanese want to go to Barbados, and Barbados want to go to Guyana, right? If they have these biometric card, right, which that's what they're going to now trap us with, then you don't need a passport, you don't need a visa, as it were. So that is how they're going to trap all of us. And many of us think that these things are nice because they're convenient and you can travel and do whatever you want to do. But at the same time, we are being controlled. And that is what we have to understand. All right. So if you can't win them, then you have to join them. And that's exactly what they're doing. And they can't win us by telling us what their agenda is. So they have to do it in subtle manner, right? And say we have a right to the city, right? We have a right to vaccine. We have a right to everything. If everyone has a right to the city, let us look at these. If everyone has a right to the city and cities become the primary units of governance and migration is increasingly encouraged, then the interests of existing citizens may be subordinated to broader global goals. And when we are just, huddled into these smart cities, then they can control us, your movements. They're going to allow you to go to a certain distance, right? And we're going to just become slaves in this brave new world. Supporters of the UN framework respond that this is not what is being proposed. That's what they argue, but that's what they're proposing. They would argue that the goal is not to abolish borders or citizenship, but to ensure that people who legally reside in a city are not excluded from basic services and participation. This is where political disagreement enters. A more nationalist perspective tends to ask, do existing citizens and communities have a prior claim to the city? So it's almost like they're going to come and capture cities and take them away from us and say that, what happened? People have a right to live there, right? People have a right to live there, and you and I will not be able to challenge them. A more cosmopolitan perspective tends to ask, how can cities accommodate diverse populations while protecting human dignity and rights? These are not the same question, and they often lead to different policy conclusions, right? So we have this guy called Lefebvre. I think Lefebvre. I can't pronounce his name. He's French. Original right to the city, and that's he was the one who came up with that idea. And the United Nations embraces this sort of philosophy. Was largely about empowering ordinary residents against powerful economic and political interests. Today, the phrase is often used by international organizations, NGOs, and urban planners in ways that some people believe have shifted the emphasis from local democratic control toward broader global governance goals, which that's what it's doing. So the right to the city means that they have a right, not that we have any rights, that they have a right to take away our rights, right? And that is, you have to always be careful when you hear them talk about rights, right? Because rights don't necessarily mean that they are going to give you rights, right? It means, therefore, that they can pretend to give you rights and at the same time take away the rights from you. Right, but this is a perfect experiment that is being done on Jamaica, right? Perfect. And Jamaicans are always accepting of experiments, right? Because again, we don't look at things deeply. Now, WHZ is saying some of these deportees may be spies or plans to destabilize regions. Absolutely. They could be. They could be. And what if these deportees are staged skillful men who are going to build these cities? What if suddenly you see, all these smart cities being built and they are being staged, right? And they're called deportees, but they're not, right? They're not really deportees. What if that's what they're doing? What if that's what they're doing? Which is possible, because you can't put anything, no, make them lift it. Make them lift it. Now, lift what? Lift what? You say lift what? They try to do the retinal scanners in Kenya. I understand. Now, this is a very good point you're raising. Remember now that it seems to me that the global South is now being used as a what do you call it now? A global laboratory, right? A social scientific laboratory, sometimes scientific laboratories, because in Kenya, the United States government approached the prime minister, the president there, and he asked him if they could build these sort of quarantine centers for people who have Ebola. But the fact of the matter is that how would you want a country to build centers for them to send other citizens to their country to be quarantined? Right? So it means, therefore, that is something that they're doing. We have to look at that because there's some connection to that. Now, the Kenyans were very upset and they protested and said they do not want any U.S. government to build any, quarantine centers in their country. Right? I don't know how that is going to end up. Okay, but it's something that we should be looking at because there's a lot of similarities, or there are lots of similarities between what is happening there in Kenya with the building of these quarantine centers with what we are seeing happening here in the Caribbean with these third country nationals, right? Something we have to watch. Now, criminal deportees are being experimented on in those prisons. Remember now that they're telling us that they are not criminals and that they're not going to be detained. right? They're telling us that they are not criminals, neither will they be detained, right? That is what they're telling us. So we just have to accept what they say. I don't know if that is the full truth, but that is what they're telling us. Okay, that they're not criminals. But I don't know if they're not criminals, why are they being sent? Why are they not being accepted? If they are people who are just normal people, right? Why can't they be accepted? Why are their governments of these respective countries refusing them? Right? That's the question we have to ask. And we are not getting any concrete answers from the government. And that is something that we have to keep pressing the government about. It is the experimentation part that is disgusting. It is disgusting. It is. We are now lab rats. Remember now that the entire population of the world were also experimented on for the vaccines. We've forgotten that, right? We've forgotten about that. We don't remember that the entire world's population was experimented on. So this is nothing as far as they're concerned. We have WHZ saying that plan in Kenya failed so suddenly. Congo is reporting Ebola cures. Right. And people in the Congo, by the way, people in the Congo were suggesting that all of this sort of, excitement about Ebola, they were saying that they were not seeing any cases in their country. It was just a lot of propaganda that was actually being dispersed in the Western medias about Ebola in the Congos. Right, so they were already saying that. So I'm not sure why they were behaving like that, and I'm sure that there are cures for any disease, right? And that is what we need to do now. When we hear of these diseases too, we need to go out and research in terms of what are the cures. Do not wait until your government or your doctors tell you what the cure is, right? We should do our own research and ensure that we take the steps. One, to fight to combat that these diseases don't attack us, or if we do fall victim, that we know how to treat them. Very important that we understand that, right? But I wanted to show you something. I hope I could, let me see if I could try again. I don't want to, the point though, I don't want to lose you when I'm doing that, but I would like to show you what Dr. Chang was saying about these deportees. Let me see if I could go into my TikTok thing here to show you the clip. I'm having a problem with this computer showing you on this StreamYard platform. Not sure why it's not allowing me to show the all right. I'm not going to do that now. I'm not going to be able to do that. All right, let's look at some. We talk about the European Union has also implemented third country agreements. We talked about that already. So we saw that though typically for recent border crossers rather than long-standing unauthorized residents. In 2016, the bloc struck a landmark deal with Turkey, allowing it to return migrants who had arrived in Greece via irregular means to Turkey, therefore treating Turkey as a safe third country. So even the European Union, we're suggesting, they are also actually experimenting with these sort of third countries. Now, those of you who understand what the New World Order is, we know that you are not going to be in one place. They can actually move you from one location to the other. Right, your government, what it's suggesting now is that in the days of slavery, we have to now be very, very, clear, and we have to begin to connect the dots. In the days of slavery, what happened? The slaves could go anywhere, right? If you were if you were a dissident, let us say in Barbados, and the government didn't like you because you're a threat to the establishment, right? The government can send you to any third country. That's the sort of standard that they're also developing. So if you are criticizing the government and the government doesn't like you, the government can say that you are a threat to national security, because what they're telling us that this is not only bilateral agreement, but it has a bilateral agreement with regard to national security. So the government can take you and send you over to Barbados, even though you're not a Barbadian citizen, or send you over to Guyana or all the way to Africa, if you will. depending on who you are. Remember that Trump said, I think he said, those of us who challenged him, right, during the Maduro time when they were trying to get Maduro, that they can be sent. He said, we can send you all the way to Africa where you will never get back to the West any day soon. So they can send you to any remote country, a very remote country, and that's what they did to the Jamaican guy, right? The Jamaican guy who went to Eswatini. They sent him all the way there rather than sending him back to Jamaica, even though Jamaica is so near to the United States. So this is nothing that we can just look at and say it's going to pass away, and that is what many of you are coming here. You think it's something that is, it's just a news and it's going to happen and move on. This is a system that is deeply entrenched in the military-industrial complex. America sending Haitians to Dominican Republic and Dominicans to Scandinavia to be more happy, right? The thing about it, what is happening in the DR, in the Dominican Republic, the Dominican Republic is rejecting any minors as deportees from the United States and any Haitian citizen. So they won't come here. Haitian citizens from the United States who will be deported from the US will not be sent to the DR, even though they have signed on to that agreement. They will be sent perhaps to other Caribbean territories or to Africa or to any other countries that the United States has allowed to sign on to that agreement. Okay, so that's something that we have to understand. Please share the live so that more people can come on the live, because this is a serious topic, right? This is nothing that we can take lightly. This is a serious topic. Now, it's a mobile prison. It is essentially a mobile prison. Remember now that we had what's his name now? The guy from Haiti, from Jamaica, Bookman. Bookman was sent from Jamaica during slavery because he was giving the British too much problem, right? And the British sent him to Haiti. And he was one of the guys who helped to have instigated the Haitian Revolution, right? So this is what they're telling us, and that's what is going to happen now. I just think they're able to control us more than Bookman in his time because they have AI and they have tracking devices, so they can track us anywhere we go. Because those people who will be sent to Jamaica or wherever they're going to be sent to, the third countries, are going to be carefully tracked and traced and surveilled. Okay, they won't be able to move. They're going to be slaves, literally. Okay, so dissidents are imprisoned in foreign countries. Absolutely, that's where we're going. That's where we're going, and we don't know what is next. What they're coming? Is there another pandemic coming? Is a crisis coming that they don't want people to talk about? And the people who are more vociferous and are expressive in their commentaries, they will just be locked down, right? Because the government keep on saying that this is in the interest of national security. And we know that how can this be national security if you're sending people that you don't know? You don't have any history of their criminality or what they were involved in. Okay? But they're suggesting, they're not criminals. So why were they even detained? I'm not suggesting, though, that all people who are detained in the United States are criminals, because some people are innocent people. So we also have to take that into consideration. Not all people who are detained wherever, worldwide, in the U.S. or worldwide, are necessarily criminals. Some people are, detained. They're innocent, but they didn't win the case, right? So, but we need to understand that we don't have the resources to be able to vet everybody and their history so that we can know who these people really are to protect ourselves. We can only rely on what they tell us, but what we're saying is that what they tell us are just not necessarily the truth. They're never telling us the truth. And that is the problem we have with governments in the region. They lie, right? They constantly lie to us, and they tell us what is really not. And then we find ourselves in problems. We saw it during the pandemic, but our citizens still believe them. And that is something that really annoys me to this day. Our citizens still believe what our politicians tell them, because that is what they hear on the media and that's what they say. So we have to believe them because that is what is credible and stuff like that. And it's not true. right? It's not often not what is credible. They tell us what they want us to hear. The government tells us what they really want us to hear and not what we should know. Okay, and that's what we're saying. Let me see if I could get something, a video up here too, because I'm having this problem with my computer. But be patient with me, so I have a little clipping here or there to just give you a background as to where we are heading in this very terrible times, because these are no normal times in which we live, right? This is cliche now, but it is true, right? It's a truthful cliche that we are not living in regular times. um, Let me see if I could show you this thing here, Jamaica versus Guyana. Um, if I could get the thing onto my screen, share. Hopefully, don't leave because I'm trying to do as much as well as you know. Let me see now. Enter, and we are going to let me go back here now and show you the screen. So I'm going to now put this on the stage. Um, this is what I want, though. Can you hear it? Let me know if you can hear it. Maybe you can't.
Many say Jamaica is becoming the next Singapore, the next Dubai. But listen, Jamaica will become the best version of Jamaica.
Can
A
you hear it?
Jamaica
Can you
with
hear it,
smart
guys?
cities. A Jamaica powered by technology, renewable energy, modern
Can you
infrastructure,
hear it?
and world-class buildings. A Jamaica with deeper global alliances than ever before. Jamaica is already one of the fastest growing countries in the region, not only on paper, but in culture, innovation, and resilience. And while some say Guyana is the fastest growing, that's because Guyana started from almost zero development 10 years ago. Jamaica already had Kingston, Montego Bay, Spanish Town, and 14 parishes, each developing, each unique, each moving forward. This is not a country with one city. This is a nation with multiple economic engines. Many say Jamaica is becoming the next Singapore, the next Dubai. But listen,
Okay.
Jamaica will
Let me see if
become the
I
best
can go to
version
the
of
next
Jamaica.
one.
A Jamaica with smart
Um,
cities.
Stop sharing. And did you hear it? Were you able to hear it? I'm not sure if you were able to hear it. Were you able to hear that what? Let me know if you were able to hear it. Were you able to hear it? Can you respond? Let me know if you were able to. So I can share with you another video. Were you able to hear it? They're not saying hello. Were you able to hear it, ladies and gentlemen? Could you? Oh, good, good. All right. So let me show you something else. Very good. That's what I wanted to hear. And that correct. Thank you so much. So I'm going to show you another video of what Dr. Chang says, because that's what I was trying to get up, but I was having problems getting it. So let me go back now into my screen and show you what Dr. Chang of Jamaica is saying about the agreement with the United States, because we have to hear from their mouths. Because I'm not in government, so I don't know. I'm just giving you what I'm reading from the press. Oh wow! Let me see if I could get what. Yeah, this is we showed this already. We've showed this already. So let me see what I could do here for getting it. Yeah, yeah. All right. Let me see if I could go and get Dr. Chang. Give me a second, and let me see if I could get Dr. Chang. Oh Lord. Let me get this off the screen. Yeah, let me get that off the screen. It's getting a little chaotic here. Oh, okay. Let me get now. Jamaica sending uh, sending 10,000. Sending 10,000. I'm not sure what sending 1,000. 10,000 third. Uh, so let me see and search here so we can send you that. It's amazing when you have your things up and running, then things happen and you can't, it's not been coming now. Lord. Uh, I have to go into my other email to get it, so please bear with me. Um, Let me see. I can get it. Whilst I'm getting it, you can talk among yourselves so that I can get it. This is something very challenging. Lots of things on my Windows here, and it's creating a lot of confusion for me. So we have. Let me get to the Dr. Chang. Dr. Chang information. Or did I have it in the other file? I should have it in the file there on this file. This file. So we have Dr. Chang. And that we have, oh Lord. All right, so let's see if I can get now. This should be it. Hopefully this is it, because I'm tired of looking at this thing. Um, I want you to listen to this one before I get Dr. Chance. I want you to listen to this lady here because she's also very interesting. Let me share the screen with you now and listen to this lady because this one is extremely important too. Um, why is this coming up now? Wow. All right. Can you hear me? This thing is taking a long time to come up. I don't know. I don't know why. All right. So let's continue with the looking at your. Okay, good. It's back. Don't know why this thing is critical. I can't show you the videos, okay, because it's going to create too much problems. It's too much problems. I can't take on that stress. So let's look at some of the comments and yes, okay, thank you. Let's continue to look at some of the comments. So we have here, they can move people around all over the world without resistance. Yes, because we won't know to. The whole matter is that the agreements are secretive. What they're telling us that whatever is in the MOU are secretive, is secretive. So we won't know why you are sent. So one day you might wake up and miss your friend. A family member is no longer in the country, right? And that person, you don't know who that person is, right? And that is what is going to happen. And if you read what is happening in El Salvador, I think what is happening in El Salvador is the sort of, a standard blueprint for what is going to happen to all of us, where you will be put into a prison cell. You don't have access to the world. You don't have access to cell phones, right? And you can't communicate with your family members. So you're just in a facility, just there, right? And I think that's where we are heading. But they're not telling us that's the end game. Now, if not mistaken, David, welcome to the live. Don't England and other countries send convicted inmates to Africa after release from prison? Yes. And I think that they were suggesting an article that we read that England was trying to do it, but it was difficult to do under their laws, right? But now that the United States is now normalizing it, I don't think that they will find it difficult to do anymore, because the United States always sets the trend for how the rest of the world should operate, right? And the United States is fast becoming, a Hitlerian state, as it were, right? So it's amazing, right? That what we would have frowned upon with what Hitler was doing in Nazi Germany, we are now seeing the same things happening right here in the West, particularly in a country that says that it is a democracy and that it stands for freedom for all peoples, irrespective of your age, your nationality, your race, and religious orientation, right? We are seeing the United States moving in that direction, and we've got to be concerned, right? It's not now that this is normal times. Now, we are hearing now, where are they sending Americans and English? Now, if the Americans, right, my understanding of it, they don't care if you're American or you're British or you're whatever. If you are challenging the system, right, and it's a form of punishment. So if you are challenging too much a system, then they can send you wherever. They can send you to Africa. They can send you to the Middle East. They can send you to Asia, right? Wherever they need to send you. This is going to now, it's going to move beyond. It's going to transcend racial barriers. It's just they do not want anybody now that attacks the system, challenges the system, right? So this is how they're moving in that direction, where they can get rid of us. Remember now that they want to now, implement the New World Order, the system of the infrastructure of the New World Order, which is what? AI, the biometric IDs, cashless societies, right? And this is the precursor that we're looking at, smart cities. So they're trying to develop smart cities, and they're telling us that we have a right to the city. We have what? A right to the city. So they're saying, therefore, that if you want to go to live in Barbados and you're from Jamaica, right, then go. Or from Guyana, you want to live in Dominica, then go. They're going to lay the foundation, as we're seeing the agreement between Guyana and Barbados, in which both citizens of these two countries can go to each other's countries once they have biometric IDs. So this is what we're moving into, and eventually people are going to accept it because, they're looking for jobs and for other conveniences too. Your families might be there, whatever reason that you need to go there. Then we have WHZ saying all European countries, including USA, will be dumping criminals in Africa. Yes, and not only in Africa, though, they will be dumping countries. Remember now that Trump is in agreement with what? 58 other countries. He is in agreement with 58 other countries that he is seeking to formulate this agreement with. All right, so they are still developing this infrastructure. But what they're doing in Jamaica and in Barbuda, Antigua, in Guyana, and the other countries, St. Kitts and the Nevis, they're testing the grounds. They're laying the foundation. They're looking at the infrastructure, and that is how they're going to decide what needs to be improved on, etc., etc., etc. So this is a testing stage, ladies and gentlemen, right? So that's what we have to understand. Thank you so much, Doc, for telling me that you're here. You're hearing me. David Fritter is saying they are not telling the truth. Absolutely, they're not telling the truth. But we can see the patterns. We saw the hurricane in Jamaica, right? Hurricane Melissa. Then we saw that they sent hundreds of thousands of dollars for people to be rescued and for them to rebuild their lives. Then we heard eventually that these people, even today, most of them have not received an inkling of that money. Then we heard that NARA had to be passed because the reason for which they had not, gotten the money was because there was too much bureaucracy in Jamaica. So they had to develop the system where they can push the funds quickly through the system. Then after that, we're seeing that there was the whole matter of the Cuba Jamaica relationship and the fact that the USS Nimitz was sent to Jamaica. We had the blackouts. Right, and after the blackouts, Andrew Holness and the people in Jamaica they're suggesting that we have to use renewables. Right. In fact, there was an expert from Uruguay who was in Jamaica. I think it was last week or the week before last, and he was there making a presentation. The Gleaner had something about that. Let me see if I can find that article about Jamaica now transitioning into renewables. Let me read you that article. That's a very interesting piece that was written by the Jamaica Gleaner, suggesting that Jamaica moving towards renewable, and that was after the blackouts. Okay, so Jamaica moving to renewables, and it was actually written by the Gleaner, and it had a very interesting editorial also by the Jamaica Gleaner. So we're going to try to show you that they're already giving us the cues. We are the ones who have to connect the dots, They're not going to tell us exactly what they're doing. Okay, so the article here from the Jamaica Gleaner says that Jamaica can run totally on renewables, says Uruguay expert. Right, that's what the expert here in Jamaica. Jamaica can run fully on renewable energy, according to the architect of Uruguay's landmark energy transition, who urged the island to move beyond incremental targets. I will assure you that it will be more than 90%, said Dr. Ramon Mendez Galan, speaking at the annual Maurice Facey Lecture Series at the Jamaica Conference Center on Wednesday under the theme Breaking the Grid, Charting Jamaica's Path to Renewable. And this happened after the blackouts, right? So everything here is strategically organized. The transition is not even a cost issue. It's not technology issue, he's saying. Mendez Galang said, adding that current policy targets underestimate what is technically and economically feasible. Jamaica targets generating 50% of its electricity from renewables by 2030, when you have the 2030 agenda by the United Nations. The national grid carries roughly 1.0 gigawatt of generating capacity, and the government of this year launched its largest ever renewable energy tender in pursuit of that goal. Right, so we're seeing that they are. Let me see. The editor of the Gleaner wrote something in response to this expert from Uruguay, and the editor of the newspaper of the Gleaner, the Jamaica Gleaner, here in an article suggested editorial solar, wind, or nuclear. That is what the editor of the Gleaner is asking. Ironically, the Gleaner is saying Prime Minister Andrew Holness revived his case for Jamaica's embrace of nuclear power, just as Ramon Mendez Galing, the architect of the South American Countries Initiative, argued that the island could replicate Uruguay's almost wholesale transition to renewables, a move that slashed energy costs and created tens of thousands of jobs. The timing of Dr. Holness's reassertion of his government's intentions on nuclear power, the deployment of the still experimental and expensive small modular nuclear reactors, was no doubt coincidental. But the development is a reminder that 3 years on, the government is still to launch the proposed robust discussion on the economics and safety of SMNRS, which means, therefore, that Jamaica is moving into renewable energy. And if you know what they're talking about, to have the what you call now the cities, the smart cities, they will depend on renewables. All smart cities, ladies and gentlemen, will rely on renewable energy. That's what they're saying. And without renewable energy, you can't have smart cities. So we know what they're doing. So Jamaica has to move in that direction because it's moving in the direction of smart cities, right? And AI powered, whatever you were talking about, right? So this is where we're moving. We can connect the dots. They're not going to tell us that this is what is going to happen. We are the ones who will have to get our news and in order, right? We have to get our news in order, and we have to get our information from reliable sources. But that is what it is. Let me look at some of your comments. Let me read some of the other comments you have here so that we can participate, because participation is key in our discussion. So we have here the David Freitas saying they move Maduro a president. So how I see it, expect anything. Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. And this is what we're saying, that, when we're talking about Andrew Holness, and what Andrew Holness is doing, Andrew Holness can't do anything. And you can't do anything too. Right. The more we can do, the only way we can do something is if we unite. Perhaps if we unite as a people, as a global populace, as a Caribbean, jurisdiction, as all of us of the Caribbean, if we stand up and say no, right, it's a possibility that will be some sort of barricade to them doing what they want to do. But, we can't do anything. The U.S. citizens there too. Look at the U.S. citizens. They're slaves. U.S. citizens are slaves in their own country. What can they do? They can't do anything. They can only, protest, and it's just breaking some sweat, because Trump will just beat them and send them back home, right? Now, WHZ, none of this is feasible. Only nuclear energy may work. Well, the fact is that they're not working with what is feasible. They're working with what is controllable, right? The vaccines, again, did the vaccines work? No, right? But they achieved their purpose of what? Control, right? So none of what they are doing and talking about sustainability and all of that stuff is definitely feasible. It's not. In fact, it's going to make our system worse. Everything that they're telling us about always makes the situation worse. But they don't care as long as they are controlling us. And that is the underlying thing that we need to know. And the danger is clear with nuclear energy, right? It is dangerous. But again, if they can, what do you call it now, scare the daylights out of us, and that's another thing that they're going to use, fear, to control us. The fear has to be a very important ingredient. So when we talk about nuclear, energy, you're talking about fear. People are fearful, and they're not going to want to challenge, lest they be damned, right? And that's what is going to happen. Food control is also another point, right? Food control is also another issue that we will have to examine in another discourse. But you're correct, David Frater. That is also another factor, another important discussion that we need to explore, because that is going to affect us in short order, right? That is going to affect us in short order. Okay, so there is a bigger agenda than just sending people to third countries. We've explored one, that smart cities are going to be on the agenda, right? And you're going to see many cities, including Montego Bay in Jamaica, Portmore in Jamaica, are going to be converted into smart cities. Okay, what is happening also in the Caribbean, as we're talking to, the banks are failing. Right now, we're hearing that Nova Scotia is now going to be fully privatized. And I understand that the center, the head office of Nova Scotia, will be in the Dominican Republic, right? So all the central bank headquarters of the Bank of Nova Scotia will now be domiciled in the Dominican Republic. And notice too, in the DR, you also have the headquarters of Amazon. So there's something about the Dominican Republic, and our islands are just little nothing right now. They're using the DR as also the head office. The FBI office is in the DR also, and quite a number of things are here in the DR. So our countries are not doing as well. We are just little nothing right now. Right. And so we think we speak English and we are going around as if we're important, right? But the real island now at play is really the Dominican Republic, not Jamaica, not Trinidad, not Barbados. Okay, so that is what we have to understand. So this is some important questions, some important points that we have to, bear in mind. There's something else that I would like to bring to your attention: the blackouts. Okay, this is what I want. Just wait a minute. Let me get this article so we can go through some of what this is saying. All right, be patient because this takes a lot of time. Your thoughts to come together and the research to be up on the screen and running. I don't have anybody helping me here to get these things together. All right, so please bear with me. Thank you so much. So let us cut this and get it on the screen so that we can get to look at these very important points here that this article. But look at blackouts. I want you to listen to this article, right? And look at what they're saying about blackouts and how this is going to be, kind of be applied to what is happening in the Caribbean, right? To Jamaica and other parts of the Caribbean. Come up thing, it's taking some time to load and it still did not load. Don't know why. Let me see if it will come this time. No. What's going on here? What is going on here? All right, so let me see if I can go back again and get the article. But I did not get it to, wow. What did I do here, Lord? Okay, so let me see if I could get it again and get it for you. So we have cut and paste, copy, and I'm going to paste it here and get it to see if we can look at it right now. Okay, it's not coming up, ladies and gentlemen, but let me see, try it one more time. Just one more time. It's sometimes the thing here is just crazy how things work here. Let me see if it comes here. Is it here? Do I put it here? Okay, so it's now up. Sometimes things are just weird, I was doing the same thing. Now, let's look at this article. The more blackouts, smart city Jakarta needs a smarter grid. So they're saying the more blackouts we have is the more they have to have a grid, a renewable grid, a smart grid. That's what they're saying, right? So they're saying here that recently Jakarta Governor Anies Baswedan visited Washington, D.C. to shed light on the progress he has made in Indonesia's capital city. He dubbed the developments under his administration as the new face of Jakarta, conveying his intentions to build an equal, prosperous, modern, dynamic, sustainable, and united city. United what? City, right? So everything is linked, connected to the city. The governor's goals for transforming Jakarta into a 4.0 city where there is dynamic collaboration between city government and residents emphasized his vision for a smart city. However, the question remains unanswered as to whether Jakarta is ready to become a smart city. Now, listen to what they're saying here, because these things can be applied to us here in the Caribbean. The latest citywide blackout, for instance, illuminates the challenges of Jakarta's aspirations of becoming a fully functional smart city. The concept of smart cities encompasses 6 different categories. Listen to what they're saying here. The concept of smart cities encompasses 6 different categories: smart governance, smart people, smart living, smart mobility, smart economy, and smart environment. The use of technology is pivotal to realize these six goals. Without reliable energy, smart cities' backbone, technology crumbles. So we have to move to renewables. To become a smart and sustainable city, there needs to be consistent and resilient energy systems. In the case of Jakarta, state electricity company PLN's role in supplying reliable electricity to its residents is imperative. Now, the problem of electricity disruption, such as blackout in Jakarta, has a domino effect, including in the digital economy and national security. I repeat that. The problem of electricity disruption, such as a blackout in Jakarta, in Kingston, in Bridgetown, in Port of Spain, has a domino effect, including in the digital economy and national security. As Jakarta rapidly develops its digital economy under its Smart City initiative, a consistent electricity supply is fundamental, right? So, in order to get into the digital era of the digitization of our economy, they will have to move our economy, transition our economy into what? Renewables. So everything here is connected, from the limits to the blackouts to the AI, to the renewables, to the expert from Uruguay and Jamaica suggesting that Jamaica has to move completely to renewables, to now we're hearing that deportees and non-citizens are going to be sent to Jamaica. The dots have to be connected. The dots have to be connected, and we are the ones who will have to do it. The government is not going to connect it for you. The government is not going to connect the dots for you, but you want something to be just told to you and dished out to you, and you'll know, but you have to connect it for yourselves. Okay, and that is what the crux of the matter. So yeah, I hear it. Yeah, thank you so much for waiting. Yes, so that means they can shut us out from all angles. Absolutely. 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 And not only that, they are already online with the digital IDs and the biometric state industrial complex. In order for that to come fully on board, they can't depend on the fossil fuel, the current electric grids that we have now. They have to usher us into a new age, as it were, into renewables to have that digital, digitized economy. Got it? Because it's going to be total control. It's going to be total control. Right? Now, look at how the people are leaving when this is the crucial part of the life. You know, that's the whole thing. You don't get what the most important thing. You don't know what to say is good and what is most critical in discussions. You don't have that critical mindset, do you? Let's go on to another point I want to raise from another article I saw for those of us who like to think and to make connections, because that's what it is all about. Not to make connections. Government is not going to tell us what's going on inside the global deal making behind Trump's. No, that is not the views of Christian national. No, so I think that we have for more than that. We have exhausted what is. So behind the scenes, we are seeing that this is what it's about: the smart cities, the renewables, right? The slavery, digital economy, right? Biometric IDs. All of these are part of this sort of third country deportees scenario. All right. So I think that if we don't have any more sort of points to make, raise questions to ask, unless you have something that you'd like to share with me, then we probably can end it. I don't know if I can share. I don't think I will be able to share the videos. It's a pity I won't be able to share those videos. Let me try again, right? Just to make sure that I'm trying. And since I've exhausted the articles. Maybe you want to learn something from these and can, because every video makes your intellectual juice click and you say, wow, that's interesting because, I was thinking about that and whatever. Let me see if I could get any of those back on the screen and see if we could put them on the screen, because people are quite visual. I find that people are more visual than they are, what you call it now. They don't necessarily like to listen. Let me see this, if this doctor thing can come up on the screen and we can get it to for you. I wanted to listen to Dr. Chang from Jamaica to see, but this is not coming up. Why is it always coming up? Yeah. Okay. Let me see. Is this it? And um, yeah, this is something we can look at too. Let me see if I can share my screen with you. Where is it? Share the screen, and let me see if I could share this with you, and hopefully it will not be problematic. Um, this is it, Montego Bay, and then let me see if I can enter and get to back here. It's all the shenanigans that I have to go through to get this thing up on the screen. Um, and I can this add to the stage and see if you can hear. Maybe you can't. Okay, let me turn on the volume now.
Details in this report. The municipal car park has been described as a milestone for Western Jamaica at a time when the West is on the road to recovery. The facility, located along Harbour Street in the second city, was officially commissioned on Thursday. The automated system is designed to modernize parking in the resort city, allowing motorists to collect a card on entry and pay electronically on exit based on the duration of their stay.
This automated car park is a small ladder in the greater vision that we have. We would ideally love to have this car park as a multi-story car park, but we are not there as yet. But this will also bring us to a stage where we can improve our revenues, bring about better order with traffic management across the city of Montego Bay.
Mayor of Montego Bay, Richard Vernon, says the development forms part of a broader vision to transform Montego Bay into a fully integrated smart city, leveraging technology to enhance efficiency and urban living.
We are going to update from this. This is just a launch. So we are going to put in license plate readers that would have read license plates for persons who are registered in the system. So if you are registered in the system, the license plate reader would read your number and allow entrance into the parking lot.
In reacting to the development, residents welcomed the move.
I will support this move. It's really nice in the middle of the town. We need more land space. There's a lot of land space that are wasting. So you use up some of them because really and truly there's no parking in the town.
So this will take off some pressure.
This will definitely take off some pressure off the motorists.
Harriet Simpson, TVJ News.
Interesting, right?
Montego.
That's interesting. Isn't it interesting to see that, they're moving in that direction? Because it looks good from a convenient perspective. It looks wonderful, right? And nobody will say that we should not, enjoy convenience, right? But all of these things is not it doesn't have to do only with convenience. It has more to do with control, right? And that is what we need to understand. There was also another video I want to show. So be a little bit patient with me. I'm having some challenges sometimes with putting it, and I think I did something probably well. And the problem is sometimes I don't know what I did the first time. so it's a call and miss situation to pull up these video clips. Let me see if this. Oh, this I want to show you this. Yeah, I want to show you this too. Let me show you this, guys. Let me show you this. Don't go away. let me see if I can share this with you. Hopefully I can rewind it. So this is her Make Your Day video, and let me get it on the screen, enter, and then I will put it on the stage. What a process. What a process I have to go through. Okay, so let me go and get you the sound. Let me go and get you the sound. The sound is here. So I'm going to turn on the sound now. Is it playing?
Is a tech and industrial park. Well, it's a complex built for innovation, logistics, manufacturing, and high-value business process outsourcing. It covers things from call centers to factories.
Let me rewind it. Let me rewind, guys.
Come with me on a tour of Jamaica's largest technology park. We're here at the MJS Tech and Industrial Park in Spanish Town. And you might be wondering, what even is a tech and industrial park? Well, it's a complex built for innovation, logistics, manufacturing, and high-value business process outsourcing. It covers things from call centers to factories, all in one compound. We visited Sagility and Transparent BPO, two call centers doing advanced work in areas like healthcare insurance and even customer support for Nintendo. Because of the sensitive nature of the information they handle, no filming is allowed inside their production areas. We also got a peek at the space where Honeybun is building a massive new manufacturing center, part of the park's second phase of expansion. People might have doubted the possibility of something like this working in Spanish Town, but they've created 2,800 jobs so far and have the capacity for up to 5,000. Chairman Michael Sobrati says it's all about bringing jobs closer to where people live, and this shows what can happen when you invest in community, technology, and vision. Come with me on a tour of Jamaica's largest technology.
That is what we saw. That's an interesting sort of, smart city sort of situation too, right? We're seeing where they're developing these parks, and nothing is wrong, as I'm suggesting with you, with green spaces, the likes that we need in the Caribbean, right? But what we're seeing in the Caribbean now is just this great emphasis on smart cities, right? And that is what we're seeing now. And some people are alleging, some people are, rumoring that it could be all of this deportation could be linked to the development of smart cities, in addition to, of course, prisons and whatever. Well, the smart cities are prisons, really, because if they're just having us in forcing us into a very small, minute location, right, then we know that these are not things that are going to be helping us to be mobile and to be free to go wherever we want to go, right? But we have to look at these things, and let me see if I could show another video of, let me see, I could pull up the Dr. Chang's video. That's what I was trying to pull up, and it's still thinking that I'm not getting it. Dr. Chang's video is something, what he's saying on the matter. Did I pull it up? Yeah, it's still not coming here. But did I show you this one? I don't know if I'd shown you this video, but I'm going to show this one to you too. Let me show you another video of where we're going, where we're heading, because we're heading to some very interesting times, and we got to get our acts together. That is it, and then I'm going to go here now and put it on the stage and show it to you, because you're not going to see it on the stage. So I'm going to put it on the stage and turn up the volume. And I'm going to turn up the volume now, and you're going to hear it.
They have these 4 buildings that went up, the highest buildings ever in Jamaica. I think they're 28 stories. And they sold the land, this beautiful parcel of land. It looks kind of like a peninsula, to 2 brothers who
Can you hear?
immigrated.
Can you tell me if you can
Jamaica,
hear?
right? And in their synopsis, they said like, oh, we left China to make our fortune and we migrated to Jamaica, and we are building these hotels, and they're not hotels. If I'm not mistaken, they're going to be apartment buildings, right? So they migrated to Jamaica for a better life for themselves and for their families. they were able to convince the Jamaican government. They sat in a room with Jamaican politicians, Jamaican government, and they convinced the Jamaican government that Jamaica should be turned into Miami Beach, South Beach. It should be turned into Rio de Janeiro. It should be turned into Panama. It should be turned into a concrete jungle. Jamaica is not a cosmopolitan city, nor should it be. Jamaica is an amazingly beautiful island that has an incredible powerhouse of energy that is mind-blowing for anyone who is a human being and in touch with their feeling. You can feel that energy that's emitting from Jamaica. So frightened for what is going on in Jamaica, because I'm sure that this isn't the only parcel of land that they've sold off to foreigners. They're going to basically start, which I'm sure they've already done, chopping up Jamaica and selling it off, and not to the Jamaicans. Going to sell it off to foreigners. They're basically going to turn it into kind of like Hawaii, right? But the difference between Hawaii and Jamaica is that Hawaii was stolen from the Hawaiians by the Americans. It was colonized, right? The Americans came in, they're like, you know what? We really like your island. It's fucking gorgeous and we want it. And so they basically went in and they strong-armed the Hawaiians. They forbade the Hawaiians to speak their language. So they basically eliminated the natural language of Hawaii. And so the Hawaiians had to speak English, and they basically stole the people's land. So now Hawaiians can't afford to buy land in their own country. They cannot. A lot of them are homeless. So the difference is that Jamaica was not colonized. Well, it was, but we got our independence. And we got our independence only to get these crooked politicians to come in and decided that, you know what, it's a fucking brilliant idea that we start selling off Jamaica, and we're going to make sure that Jamaica is studied all over the island. We're going to start having these ridiculous high-rise buildings in Jamaica, right? It's going to mar the beauty. It's going to mar the energy. And I'm sure that when they sat in that room, those politicians, they were given a huge kickback. We will never know what the kickback is, right? Obviously, we know that it's money, but we don't know. Do they have a deal that for the next 20 years, they get a percentage of the profit of these places that they're selling off, plus the kickback upfront? Whatever it is, the Jamaicans are not benefiting from it, right? The population of Jamaica, because basically they're going to be working in these buildings. So basically they're going to be making a substandard living, right? They're not going to be profiting. So they're cutting up Jamaica and they're selling it off to foreign people. I'm going to be very curious to see all the countries that they're selling off Jamaica to. And the fact of the matter is that the government of Jamaica represents Jamaica. So if they want to do anything like to sell off the island of Jamaica, the Jamaicans should have a say in it. They should have a say in it. Who gets the island and how much of the island is gotten, right? It's not as if they're sitting down and say, okay, you know what happened? We're going to, sure, you can come and you can invest, but we will give you, you can basically have the land for, I don't know, 100 years. And after 100 years, it reverts back to Jamaica, like how they do in England, right? They did that, right? People could come in and they could have the place for like 100 years or blah, 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 but then it would revert back to the English. Anyhow, let me not go off on a tirade, but what I want to say is that the thing about Jamaica that makes Jamaica incredibly special is that there is something about Jamaica. The energy in Jamaica is potent. It is unfucking believable. So now you're going to start putting up these high-rise all over the island. It's going to be studied, and you're going to have little patches and pieces of land with greenery on it. But the majority of Jamaica is going to now look like a fucking city. And I'm telling you that the people that are living in Jamaica, the people that are buying up all of Jamaica, they're going to get the best pieces of property, right? They're going to get the best pieces of property. And then the Jamaicans are going to be left with these little rinky-dinky areas to live in. It's not happening. Jamaica is rich in minerals, it's rich in agricultural potency, and the terrain is amazing for growth. Those politicians basically should be sitting around in a room, figuring out and brainstorming and coming up with ideas to make Jamaica self-sufficient so that the Jamaicans can thrive and that they don't have to leave the islands. Because let me tell you something, Jamaica is in the top 10 countries of countries which are poached for their intellectual population. So England comes to Jamaica regularly and they basically take as many teachers as they can get out of Jamaica and they bring them to England. They get as many nurses and as many medical population as they can and they bring them to England. And one of the things that they do to make it very, very, very attractive is that they give them free housing for 5 years. 5 years. So the Jamaicans work and they don't have to pay rent and they can save their money, but I'm sure they work them to the fucking T. Do you think that those Jamaicans really wanted to leave Jamaica? No. But the Jamaican government is not providing enough wealth within the country to properly pay for those doctors and nurses and teachers. And so, of course, these other countries are aware of this. And so they come and these Jamaicans and take them out of Jamaica. England have decided that they're not going to educate their peasants, right? They're not going to educate the working class, the lower middle class, the middle class, right? They just can't be bothered with that. It's easier for them to come to a place like Jamaica and get the brains that they need and bring them to their country. And the government is aware of that. Jamaica is not Miami Beach. It's not Copacabana. It's not Panama. It is not a first world country, nor does it want to be a fucking first world country. All of this in the background that you're seeing behind that hotel, these ridiculous, monstrous buildings, all of this land there is going to be riddled with high rise. That is what the Jamaican government is doing. And the Jamaicans should find out who it is that's signing off on these deals. And the Jamaicans should have a say with what's going on with their island. This is outrageous. It's unacceptable. It's disgusting. I am so grossly, grossly, grossly disappointed about what's going on with my beautiful, beautiful island because of the bunch of crooks that they have masquerading as politicians when in reality they're just goddamn crooks who does not give a shit about their country and about their people. All they care about is the fucking money and fucking power. And then their plan is to totally destroy this beautiful, beautiful paradise and to totally sell off the entire island to foreigners, where Jamaicans are in substandard positions and in subservient positions. People, get it together. Get it together.
Yeah, and she's right. You know, she's right in everything that she says, everything that she, her opinions about Jamaica is on point. Jamaica does not belong to Jamaicans anymore. And Jamaicans think that it belongs to them. And that is why they are responding to this deportee thing in such, fevered sort of way, because they think that Jamaica is theirs, it belongs to them, and that Dr. Andrew Holness should be doing whatever it is in Jamaica's best interest. But he's not, because Jamaica does not belong to Jamaica. And in fact, I would say Jamaica does not even belong to the politicians, right? Jamaica belongs to the people with lots of money. Welcome, Stephen Knight. Andrew, what's up? You had a good show last night. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your participation last night. And as usual, Stephen Knight, always here and always supporting the show. So this is all about Palantir and the food organizations using us as guinea pigs. Absolutely. That is what they're doing. We are now a social laboratories, or we are social laboratories right here in the Caribbean, and we're guinea pigs, as you're saying, Stephen Knight. Stephen Knight is also saying, is it going to be one big open prison? They're going to be spying on you 24/7. Absolutely. It is going to be one big prison, and that's why they're changing the grid, because the grid is going to move to renewables, and renewables is going to be total surveillance. right? Total. I'm hearing something that people are saying that even the 5G, or probably we'll be having 6G and 7G by then. But some of these, telephone Wi-Fi sort of services will be able to see us, what we're doing through the wall, whatever. So whatever you're doing through a wall, they can see what you're doing through your hidden walls, right? What world are we going to live in, right? That you are behind your concrete wall, right? And they have devices that they can see you, but we know that they can see us on our cell phones, right? That whatever we're doing, whatever we're saying, they can also see us vis-a-vis our cell phones, what we call smartphones, right? Smartphones. So they're going to have smart cities, smart people. Now, did you hear that, guys? Smart people. Who are going to be smart people? Because when we say smart people, we think about people being bright, right? Being intelligent. But now they're talking about smart people. So are they going to be injecting into us something that they can read us, whatever is on our mind? That's what we have to ask. Because what do we understand by smart people? Maybe you can give me a better response. The smart city also fails, as Michelle, welcome to the show, Michelle Forrester. The smart city also falls into the concept of the 15-minute cities. Absolutely. Everything you need to be within 15 minutes of you. So there is an element of governmental control as in why you would leave, right? So that's exactly, and very well said, Michelle. Thank you so much for defining what a smart city is for those of us who do not know. And some people are still in denial that when we talk about smart cities, people think it's conspiracy theory, but they're saying it, right? They are on record of saying that we need to have smart cities. Your city after they lock you in, right? So you're going to be perfectly locked into their system of control. And Michelle is saying here again, the technocrats have come up with this, and ease can quickly turn into captivity. And that is what, the other day I was watching a TikTok video, and there was a Trinidadian, and she was just showing that Piarco International Airport is now fully a smart airport, and you can go through with your biometric ID, and it's easy, it's convenient, and nothing is wrong with that. But what we don't understand, I think some of us brag about these developments, and they look nice, and these high-rise buildings, and they look nice, and they beautify, as I've often say, the Caribbean and the city, and it looks like a first world country, give you that appearance, but it's control. And how do we now differentiate between control and convenience? That is something that we have to, development also and convenience. Maybe I should say the right word is development and convenience. Because we want to see our islands developed, but at the same time, they're using these technological devices, right, to control us. And this is something that we have to now have a discussion on, maybe on another live. How do we develop yet not be controlled? The technocrats have come up with this, right? I think we have read this already. Stephen Knight is saying here, by any politician, you can have what you want. Yeah. They just simply, sell out the country to any investor, and that's what is happening. WHZ saying they are taking the brightest minds and sending in dumb deportees. That's interesting too. I think there is a situation in Guyana, though, where it seems to me that they're sending some skilled people to work the oil fields, something like that. Don't quote me. I think that's what they're saying, that they're going to be working the oil fields, or they will be experts in oil development, oil production. And what I'm suggesting too, we don't know if some of these people who are coming are not necessarily staged, brilliant people, scientists who will be coming to develop the smart cities. Because in the first place, they are not going to be detained, right? So it's a possibility that some of these people will be, right? What if they are AI humanoid robots? I don't think they're going to be humanoid robots, but what if they're people who are sent to sort of to build these smart cities? Because we probably can't build them. We don't have that sort of training and expertise. So maybe they're sending these scientists, engineers, whoever, right, to build these. So we don't know who they're sending. We don't know who they're sending. And Stephen Knight is saying same thing. Yeah, the same thing all over the islands. And that's what I'm saying. Jamaica is only being used as the launching pad. Good evening, Maria. Jamaica is only being used as the launching pad, but eventually all the Caribbean. It's not only Jamaica now. It's also Dominican Republic, Antigua and Barbuda, and Guyana, also in talks with them, and I can't remember the next, St. Kitts and the Nevis, All of these islands are involved in accepting third countries. Now, remember now that what is going to happen from here on, let us say tomorrow Barbados is in a spat with the United States, and the United States wants something from Miss Mia Motley, and she is finding it hard to give it to him, to submit to his request. Then this is what he's going to say to her: but if you can't give it to me, you have to accept third country nationals, something of the sort. So it's also a negotiating platform that Washington is using to negotiate whatever it wants, right? So it might not be Barbados today, but it could be Barbados tomorrow, depending on what the United States wants from Barbados. Maybe it wanted something from Jamaica, and maybe it could be the IMF thing. I don't know. And not only that, too, if it sends you aid, because the United States sent Jamaica also a lot of aid after Hurricane Melissa. If the government of the United States sends you lots of aid and all of that, your hands are going to be tied. So God forbid we don't have a natural disaster, earthquake, hurricane, whatever the natural disaster might be, and then you see all these news media going down to Barbados or Trinidad or wherever, God forbid, any natural disaster should take place there. But if they do, because we are living in a world, where natural disasters occur, then they're going to tell us that, they need some money. You need to give them what they want, sorry. You are not free people are fooled by all these nice cliches, right? Names, smart cities, smart this, and smart. Yeah, I want you guys to tell me, what do you think about smart people? What do you think they're going to do to us? Because something is in the works to change humanity. When they say no smart people, are they talking about transhumanism? Is that what they're talking about? Is that what they're referring to? Because what are they going to do to make us smart? Okay, apart from our intelligence that we have, right? Because they're saying they need smart cities, smart people, smart, electricity, smart everything in these smart cities. In terms of Wi-Fi, Dog Food is saying Elon Musk, that is 10,000 plus satellites are part of the picture for surveillance, aka Starlink and Star Shield, right? And as you say, Star Shield, Dog Food, they're telling us that the whole matter of the surveillance, what they call that, the thing of the surveillance, what was the meeting there in the Shields, right? The Shields of the America meeting, that was held in Florida among some of these countries, with the United States and some of these Latin American, Caribbean countries. So we are in some very interesting times. I mean, dangerous times, I must say. Not interesting. They're interesting in the sense that we can see that these things are developing, but they're dangerous. Part of the picture also, starships will need equatorial space ports, and that is true. That is true, right? That is true. I need to do more studies on Starlink, because I don't really know what it does and how much capacity it has to surveil. Because everywhere you go now, people are using Starlink in the Caribbean. It's almost like the normal cell phone, not the internet, network system like Claro and Digicel. It's almost very soon they will come out of business. They're going to go out of business because Starlink is going to replace them. What do you think? Starlink is going to be the new internet, provider of the Caribbean and of the world in general? I don't know. Michelle Forrester is saying it is the first time a private company is at the forefront of U.S. space exploration. It is no longer NASA. Everything is being privatized, including the banks. I understand that the Bank of Nova Scotia is now fully privatized, and the head office will be in the Dominican Republic. Michelle Forrester is saying, I think smart people are a reference to androids using AI and not humans. I got you. So those are the humanoid robots. I see what you're saying. They eventually get to humanoids, right, where they will fuse human brains with technology. Did you hear what she said? And she's right. Right? This is absolutely correct. This is absolutely 100% correct. So I'm going to repeat again. I think, as Michelle is saying, I think smart people are a reference to androids using AI and not humans. They eventually get to humanoids where they will fuse human brains with technology. So it means, therefore, that they can be able to read. They will never be able to read our thoughts, but at least they will think they are reading our thoughts. And I'm sure many of what they think we're thinking not going to be true, right? But they're going to pretend like it's true and tell us that, oh, that's what you were thinking, because they have the evidence when they don't have the evidence, right? But I think they're trying to play God. That's exactly what they're trying to do. And you're correct, Michelle. WHZ saying Starlink is in the Caribbean, right? Didn't know that. Yeah, it's in the Caribbean. It's in the Caribbean. In fact, almost every apartment complex I'm seeing in the Caribbean, people are using Starlink, right? They're all, you look at the source and they're saying Starlink. And after Hurricane Melissa, it was in Jamaica because of the disconnection, because of the storm. The storm disconnected many people there. So they sold a lot of Starlink in Jamaica. Mind control. It is mind control. It is mind control. It is mind control. What a sort of world we're living in. It's almost like we're living in the what? The Brave New World. We might have to go and read that book, you know. We have to read the book, The Brave New World by, is it what do they call it? Adolpsley. Let me remind myself of his name, The Brave New World. Can somebody find that book for me and the name of the author? The Brave New World, because all of these things are there, right? That we see, this world that we're living in is strange, right? The Brave New World by, and the author, yeah, it's Aldous Huxley. Aldous Huxley. That's The Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. Yeah, I think we need to read that book. Let me write it in the Brave New World. The Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. Because I think he mentioned some of these things in the book, right? Where we are going. I mean, these guys were part of Freemasonry. Sorry, I left out the V, so I might have to rewrite it. The Brave New World. New World. Let me get my spelling together. Yeah. So I think that that we're here in this brave new world, right? I think that's where we are now, and we've just got to get our thoughts together. How are we going to survive, though? How do you think we're going to survive? Let's now, before we end this program, let us see ways in which we are going to survive this sort of, new world order, brave and bizarre way of living. How are we going to survive? Should we move back to the rural areas? Because they don't seem to have any plans for the rural areas, do they? Do they have any plans for the let me see what Dog Food is saying. Long-term conspiracy, Moon and Mars will be the new indentured West Indies. Wow. The will shape Earth economies to force people into indentured contracts and migrate there to the Moon and Mars. That's interesting, because that's what what's his name? The starting guy, Elon Musk, right? That's where he's the guy, the moon guy, right? Elon Musk. That's where he wants. Yeah, country living. Yeah, I think that is what we have to move back to, right? We have to move back to the days of country living, because everybody's moving from the rural areas to the urban centers, right? And the urban centers are where we're having the wars. We're having these smart cities, but they're not telling us what they're going to do to the rural areas. Are they going to capture those lands in the rural areas, or what are they? What is their plan? What is their plan for the rural areas of these Caribbean and all the countries around the world? But we might have to go back to basic living, country living, where we have our own grid system, where we have our own food, we plant our own food, right? And we can just be away from the confusion that is going to be here in the cities, because based on what we're seeing, even the blackouts, even with the blackouts, right, that could be a big confusion, and they are suggesting that we are going to have them more frequently as time goes by. Because, and you can bet me, I can guarantee you that the renewables are going to be worse. They're going to be worse than the fossil fuels and what we have now. I can tell you that. Anything that they say they're improving, never improve, right? Never improve. They always tell us the opposite of what they're doing. So we know the renewables are not going to be consistent, and they're not going to be, something that are reliable and sustainable, as they are using those very sophisticated words. So sustainability, big words, right? That they're using as if they're something that are important. Take our lands and put us in concrete jungle slums. That's what they did. They're going to take our, that's what they want. And they want all of us, as it were, to live in smart cities, because that is how they can control us. Everything we do, everywhere we go, the people with whom we talk, right? Everything will be totally controlled, right? So that is why we have to move now from the conversation about the deportees into talking about these. And I bet you, if everybody in the Caribbean were talking about this, they would have to say, "Oh, we're going to pause the deportees," because guess what? I'm sure that as they go, because why are they sending 25 people every 2 weeks? That's a lot of people for any island, because we're small spaces, right? We're islands, and our islands are very small. From Jamaica to Barbados, we're small spaces. So why are we getting 25 people, deportees, per every 2 weeks? When you add that up per year, how many people are you going to have? How many deportees are you going to have per year? That's a lot, Michelle is saying, staying connected to your humanity while continually learning new technologies and staying connected to other people. Keep reading, ask questions, don't believe everything you hear, stay connected to the reality, to the earth, to the earth, correct. One of the things I'm realizing, though, the more we remain in these cities, in these urban centers, I am looking at people and they're almost becoming now robotic. Do you find that? Even on TikTok videos, everybody's saying the same thing. Everybody's creating the same videos. Everybody's, using the same lingo. Everybody is eating the same food, and they're all reacting to the same thing, right? And it makes our people look like robots. The more I look at our people now, we're not really far away from what they really want us to be. So when they inject something in us, because I think they might inject something in us like what they call a vaccine or some injection, whatever they're going to inject, and it's going to transform our way of thinking and how we normally respond. Because I fear when I look at social media and see the level of control and the robotic behavior where we're all reacting the same way, doing the same things, saying the same things. I don't know. We're there. And it's sad. We're there, but it's going to work. It's going to get worse. WHD is saying you will have nothing and be happy. That's what they're saying. That's exactly what they're doing. You'll have nothing and be happy. So the deportees can come to Jamaica, right? And they can go to Barbados. They can go to Antigua, wherever they're going to go to, or Guyana. They're not going to Barbados yet. So, so don't, because Barbados has not yet signed on to that deal yet. But when it does sign on to that deal, which I'm sure it's going to do eventually, the people who are going to be sent, they're going to be happy, right? Because they're going to be having their smart cities, and they have their phones, and they can just laugh and enjoy reggae and enjoy the Caribbean, right? Food and culture. Michelle is saying most people won't be able to live off the grid, and that's the point of the 15-minute cities. You're correct. And the fact is that life is so also expensive in the cities, right? So to be frank, they're wanting you to remain in 15-minute cities is not a bad idea, outside of the control, because when you think of the price of, transportation and moving from one location to the other, it is pretty expensive to live in these urban centers, right? So when they have 15 minutes, and just 15 minutes away from your school or from your work or from your church or wherever you're going, I mean, your grocery shop, I mean, it's not bad from that perspective, is it? But we know that while it's convenient, it's going to be what? Controlling. And we don't like, human beings don't like to be controlled. We like to have our freedom. We don't like to know people are watching, always watching us. But you know one of the things too? I think we also have become accustomed to it because the cell phones, all right, we are constantly invading people's privacy with our videos, and people are always constantly, having lives on the roads, and I have to be in your life. Why should I be in your life when I don't want to be in your life? Yeah, and that's the whole thing that we have become so much accustomed to the intrusion in our daily lives that I'm sitting on a table and somebody has on a live and they're videotaping you and recording you in their live, and you just have to, there's no way to talk about against it, right? You have no sort of privacy. Once you're in public, that's it. Anybody can video you, anybody can record you, even without your consent. Michelle Forster says they don't need to inject you with anything as long as you are living by the algorithm. They already have you if you cater to the algorithm. So most young people are already programmed and older. I think you're right. But I think too that even the vaccines that they gave the other day, people are now talking about some of the things in the DNA, and even people who were denying it, that they altered people's DNA, are now beginning to say, even Nurse John Campbell, they're now finding evidence to suggest that some people's DNA was altered, right? So so we have to think about that. Some of the medicines that we're going to get, we also have to be careful because they're going to have secondary effects upon our thinking or bodies. Do you know that some of the vaccines also, people also became suicidal? Some people had suicidal thoughts, right, after taking that thing. So it's interesting to know where our medical career, the medical field, is heading, and how we can change human and their emotions and their mental capacity. Michelle Forster is saying people addicted to devices and social media. And it is true. We are addicted now. But I think they're going to up the game, though, Michelle. I think they're going to really do something to up the game because they want full control. They want full control. You won't be able to think and to even challenge the system. And that's why the majority of people will be so conditioned that the minority who are not are going to be what? They are going to be, what do you call it now, threats. They're going to be threats. They become threats to the system. They're going to call it national security. So in other words, you and I will have to be exiled. That's what they're moving to, It's call about these deportees, the third countries, you're going to be exiled. So I can be exiled to Africa or exiled to Asia. That's what it is really, right? Even though deportee is not a nice word, right? It has a negative connotation, but I think exile is really the word. It's even more euphemistic, a word to use. It's exiles. They're going to be exiled to Jamaica or exiled to wherever they're going to send you to. And we have Doc, who said the Resident Evil movie series is very useful to see some of the political unknowns. One of the things that you're pointing out, Dog Food, is that some of these movies that you're watching, yes, they're giving you insights into where we're heading. So you think that they're just sci-fi or it's just some fictional movies, but a lot of the movies you watch, like in Hollywood, that Hollywood produce, they also give us insight, or foresight, I should say, into what to expect in the future. That is true. So when you're watching these movies, just don't think about entertainment, critically view them, right? Look at the plot, where they're going, try to make comparisons to where we are now in the stream of things, and and begin to just do that, so you can see that this is true. This is nothing that is conspiracy theater. Yet Terminator, all of these movies that you're watching, right? Try to just don't watch them because you just want to entertain. You can entertain yourself with it too, don't get me wrong, because sometimes we have to relax. But the fact of the matter is that, try to see what's going on and how we can make applications to the times in which we live. Yeah, what a beautiful, beautiful live we had today in terms of describing this. I'm happy that we are on the same page too. That this is not just about deportees. This is more about deportees. This is about the building of the biometric industrial complex where we will be controlled, and if we are not controllable, they can also send us to any third country, even if we don't have any cultural, linguistic, or familial ties with that particular land, right? So that is something that we have to. Dog food, exactly, Andrew, you said it better. Most sci-fi don't use as entertainment on the, they're not. They're not, right? They're the Star Wars and even the other one I used to watch, that one that used to come on TVJ on JBC in Jamaica. What they call it again? They were out of space. They used to have this, I think it used to come on Saturday nights, and we used to watch. It was like a sci-fi movie, very entertaining. But we can see aspects of these things now being spoken about, and people are talking about militarizing space, right? That people are militarizing. That the United States is militarizing space. So we see what's going, and they're talking about aliens. What about aliens, right? And they're telling us about aliens. So aliens can attack us anytime, right? So they're telling us that it's not we who are going to attack you, or a nuclear weapon that will be used to blow you out of existence. They're going to say it's aliens from another world, that are attacking you. No, these people are smart. You have to give them their credit. They're not nice, but they're smart in terms of how they're going about getting their things together. And the sad thing, most of us are already controllable, right? Most of us are already controllable. And that's very, very sad thing. Just like when John was exiled, right, to the island of Patmos, absolutely. The same thing. John was exiled to the island because they didn't want him, they wanted to silence him. That's the whole purpose. They wanted to silence him. They actually put him in hot oil, right? And then we have Dr. Chang from Jamaica suggesting that these people are not going to be punished and nothing will happen to them. We can't guarantee that. If somebody sends me to a country to which I don't belong, yes, they can beat me up. Because guess what? I have no sort of rights under that jurisdiction. So they can beat me up. They can torture me because I have no passport. I have no rights, right? How will I be able to complain? I'm not even sure if the parents or the relatives of some of these people know where they're being sent, and if they can be in contact. Yeah, Star Trek. That's what I was thinking. Star Trek. Absolutely, that's the movie I was talking about. Right. So we are not safe in any third country. I would not be happy to be going to a third country, because even though we know, even though you can be tortured in your own country too, but it's your space and you sort of know what's going on and whatever. But to be tortured and exiled in a country that you don't have any links with, it's more torture than you would if you were in your own country. Or Atlantis, right? Or Atlantis, yeah. I remember Star Trek. I didn't watch Atlantis, but definitely Star Trek was a very popular sci-fi sort of movie. Knight Rider was another one, right? Knight Rider. When we were watching Knight Rider in the 80s, one would have thought that Knight Rider was just a nice show, was an entertaining show, but we're seeing aspects of Knight Rider in our 15 minutes and these AI thing that powered cars and whatever. Yeah. Okay. So, are we? Any other point? Any other point before we end the live? Okay, make sure you like the live and you share the live with as many people on the platform so that we can have the live shared. So the algorithm will push it forward, all right? So that people can learn from whatever we've discussed here. Let's not keep the knowledge back to ourselves, but share it with as many folks so that they too can be enlightened. Tomorrow I will be joined, I will come with another live. So please stay tuned and see you tomorrow. Have a great evening. Bye.